Good afternoon, my name is Julian A, and here I'm going to answer this following question. To what extent can nuclear weapons affect the United States and their political relationships with other countries? My solution is the United States can maintain a good political relationship with foreign nations if there is an agreement around the world to store and end developments and constructions of the nuclear weapons. My conclusion is if nuclear weapons are to be deactivated and not used for war or destruction, the United States can have a stronger relationship with the lasting peace of other nations. But before we can talk about disarmament of nuclear weapons, we have to know the history of it. It started in 1939 with physicists Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann. They were going with a way to go off of Einstein's theory to divide uranium through a process called fission, which releases an energy, which when they proved that theory was to be correct, they started with the Manhattan Project, which was to be able to use and create the first transporting atomic bomb to be used during war. And as seen in 1945, the first time the world has ever seen the use of an atomic or nuclear weapon was in 1945, which was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Later, after World War II, many countries saw the use and destruction that it could contain if the United States continues to use it. So with the USSR, as they were also a thriving upcoming superpower at the end of World War II, they began to use and create, which started to lead to the Cold War. And as you see in 1952, as they did more developments to the atomic bomb, they invented the hydrogen bomb, which was first detonated in the atoll in the Marshall Islands. And following 3 years later, they created the first powered submarine to hold nuclear weapons so they can be able to launch closer and hit their target quicker. And the reasons why they continued was because the US wanted to make sure they had enough atomic weapons and nuclear weapons if they needed to for future references and necessary use. The USSR was aware of the dangers the US had of creating nuclear weapons as they were becoming a super nation of the world. And now we jump into the 21st century with the developments that the nuclear weapons have gone through. As you see here, these are the different years of how the atomic and became more destructive throughout the years, starting with the fission bomb, which in 1945, as it came larger, was 15 megatons of nuclear damage, and then went to 1962, where a single warhead has 1 megaton of nuclear destruction. And as we go into modern day, which is 1986 to present, which shows that it goes to 407 kilotons of destructive power with 1 nuclear warhead, and each one could be containing 10 or more nuclear warheads in one missile. And as you see here, this is a chart with all the nations of the world that contain nuclear warheads in their arsenal. Starting from 1945 to 2015, these are the charts of use and the nuclear threat levels that these countries possess. And as you see, it's mostly the United States and the USSR/Russia, because after World War II, the Cold War began because tension between the United States and Russia became to see the ideals of capitalism and communism as it spread, and there was always brink of war. And as you see here, this clock was always to presume doomsday, which there could have been nuclear war and could have destroyed many parts of the world and causing major fatalities. And as you can see here, there's all these countries that have nuclear weapons, but they don't possess as much as a threat to the United States and the USSR because there was no conflicts between any of the countries besides those two. And then here you see a chart of the United States nuclear arsenal. Has it decreased over the years from 1945 to 2018. And they list the modern problems that we have today with North Korea and Pakistan, how they're both emerging with nuclear weapons and they want to increase, while the rest of the world wants to decrease. So the United States has been decreasing their arsenal to make sure that there's no brink of nuclear war and there's nothing that can be catastrophic. For this source, Generalizing nuclear weapons. This source went to details of the different acts and treaties that have been made since World War II to try to limit the use of nuclear weapons. They show the security has also increased in many places in the world after they realized of how the atomic bomb could be used, which after World War II, they installed many radar bases around the United States and around the world. They also, in different countries, they installed radars for planes if they're coming through in any perimeter of the country. And and they also came up with other ways to counter if a nuclear war started. The United States have also stated that they deny for many years, the United States denied any terms for fully disarmament of their nuclear weapons, since there's still potential threat of other countries emerging and having a full arsenal, and they could be used against the United States. And here are some of the treaties that were made, such as the NWZS, which was formed at the end of World War II, the NPT in 1968, the CTPT in 1999, the PNET in 1976, and the SAIT in 1979. And my counterclaim is, how can the disarmament of nuclear weapons improve relationships between the superpower countries? Well, as in this source states, the nuclear disarmament resource collection. Many countries have been coming together to try and be a nuclear weapon-free world, and many countries such as Ukraine, Finland have been giving up their nuclear weapons back to Russia because they want to be part of a nuclear-free society, and they want to set an example for the rest of the world, such as in different areas such as South America, how they came up with a deal to have nuclear weapon zone free in the area. And also in Africa, there's been multiple increases in demanding of nuclear weapons, such as South Africa, for example, how they emerged with a growing arsenal, but when they realized the potential threat that other nations have made in multiple meetings in the UN, they have decided to go to fully disarm all the nuclear weapons so they can be nuclear free. And this shows as an example that the world is trying to come together to get away from one common fear that the world shares. And that's the end on Donba. Shell, do you have any questions?
I have two questions. First, how did your research question evolve as you went through this whole process?
My research question evolved many times because at first I was going through how it could change the military in different countries and how it can go from different viewpoints of how the United States can improve with different countries, but since it was too broad and it was too much research to handle, I had to limit and minimize what common thing that around the world, which was obviously politics.
All right. Sorry, I'm scribbling.
Yeah, it's fine.
Next question. If you had more time, what additional research would you have done?
I would have added from different countries of their nuclear arsenals and the treaties they have done to also condemn more of how they're trying to get rid of nuclear weapons, such as Russia, to see from their viewpoint, since they're also a growing superpower of the world, since they're also rival the United States. So I would have liked to have a viewpoint from them to see how they're also trying to improve relationships with other countries, since many countries fear them from the nuclear threat.